Hello and welcome to episode number 44 of the Hobbies and Happiness podcast, where we talk all about the hobby that makes us happy, tabletop gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Dan.
And I'm Jim, and today we're talking with the Lord of the Board himself, Sam Smith.
All right, we're having another conversation with some friends. Today we are talking to, like Jim said, the Lord of the Board himself, Mr. Sam Smith. I came across his content of about a year or so ago, looking up some Villainous stuff. So ever since I saw his content and we started doing Hobbies and Happiness, I'm like, man, we're doing all this Villainous stuff. We have got to talk to Sam. And so we sit down with him. Sam is, like we said, he runs the YouTube channel Lord of the Board. A great, fantastic conversation. Honestly, we can't wait for you guys to listen to. So without any further ado, we'll get right into it. All right. So today we are joined by Mr. Sam Smith. Sam runs the YouTube channel The Lord of the Board. Sam, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
You know, it's Monday.
It is
Yes.
Monday.
So I'm always like every Monday, I'm like, all right, guys, let's go. We're going to crush it this week. Let's have a great week. And then I come home from work and I'm just like, dang it, Monday. You kicked me in the butt again.
I appreciate that so much because I'm like the type that's just like, oh man, Monday is like 3 coffee day for me and like take a nap day for me. So like, yeah, just Mondays are not good. Not good for me.
Yeah. So Sam, before we get into it here, I've always been very curious. Where did you come up with the name The Lord of the Board? Did you just did it just sound cool, or did you have like a specific inspiration, or where'd you get that name?
Yeah, so it's kind of sad because there is actually another Lord of the Board. It's like a backgammon tournament scene, I guess. And I actually had no idea that the backgammon had already taken that, because when I was doing Google searches, apparently my Google search is just like terrible because I never found that. I found that after the fact. So originally I was thinking, oh, I am so original right now. But the thinking actually came from my love for the Lord of the Rings. I don't really know why, but I was just like, the Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Board. And originally the logo actually had a very like Lord of the Rings style to it. I actually did the same kind of font style. It was like on the shield. So it was very like Lord of the Rings inspired. I love Lord of the Rings. So cool.
Yeah, I think I saw your evolution of your logo. It looked. Did you do all of that yourself?
Yes. Yeah. All of the graphics and everything that you see is all done by me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am always interested by like logos, brand designs, and like the evolution of said brands, because I feel like when we started out, where we never really thought about like where we're gonna go from here. We're just like, oh yeah, we love it, it looks cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like human nature to like want to always get. And I don't want to say like get better, because that would kind of imply what you did was bad, but it's just like the evolution a little bit it's always very intriguing.
Yeah.
So
Totally understand that. Yeah, like when I originally designed the logo, I was just thinking like, what do I want the branding to look like? And it was like board games, strategy content. I love medieval stuff and fantasy, so it was like shields, swords, dice, pawns, and then I just started from there, and it kind of stuck around in that same vein. So
we talked a little bit about this before we kind of started here, but you've been doing YouTube about 2 years or so now. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2 years. I'm not like counting, but I think it's like 2 years and some.
Okay.
So I started in April. Yeah. So it will be 3 years this April, actually.
Oh, nice.
Oh wow.
So that's actually 2 years and quite a bit.
Yeah. So what made you want to start this YouTube journey? Like, was there a specific thing that you weren't seeing, or kind of what was that trigger for you that made you want to start doing YouTube?
Yeah, I had a very, very specific moment. I was playing Root with my wife. Root, if you don't know what that board game is, it's a great board game. Go check it out. But I was playing that with my wife, and we were all chilling. And I was like, man, I really suck at these darn cats. It's just like terrible at them. And I went onto YouTube and was like, hey, strategy guides on YouTube for Root. This should be a thing, right? Nothing. So I come from an RTS background. Like I play a lot of video games, RTS stuff, or like asymmetrical factions.
Yes. All right.
You know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
So Age of Empires, StarCraft, and all that. I would go online and I would be able to just look up strategy guides, build orders, all that stuff, and figure out what's going on with this asymmetric faction right here because I don't understand it. And since I couldn't find anything like that on this board game, I was like, okay, this is like my goal now is to like fulfill this need in the board game community and do strategy guides for this game. Mm-hmm. So my original videos were done in the shadiest area with a phone and I filmed, edited, did all of it on an iPhone X. And I was just, I played the heck out of Root just to give some beginner tips on each of the base game's factions. And that's how the channel started.
Isn't it amazing what you can do with your phone now?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy that there are people who like run their entire channels just off of this thing right here. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
I know the editing was insane though. It was like, oh my gosh, it's so small.
Yes.
And I had the small, like it was the iPhone X. You didn't have like the X Max now. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a bigger size. It was this small size. And it was like, dude, moving those little picture frames and like cutting little images. And I did a lot of like animations in those first videos because my thinking was, I need to do something that's going to be different than what anybody else has done before. And like no board game content had animations. So I was like, let me try some animations and see if that catches anybody's attention.
Well, so, I think you did. It seems like you did.
It definitely worked. It definitely worked. I feel fortunate every single day when I look at like my channel. And even though those early videos are really cringy to me, I am so fortunate at them, like, because honestly, there's channels that have been around for, 7 years and they don't even have 1,000 subscribers or get, more than 38 views or something. Yeah. Like, I'm so blessed. Like, this is not something that I'm like, oh my gosh, I just did it so well. Like I every single day I wake up and I'm like, thank the Lord that worked because I had no idea it would.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm glad you brought up Root because,
I answered one of our questions.
You answered one of the questions.
Okay.
What you got to tell us here. What is your obsession with Root here, man? I know you love the game. Now, granted, also take that from someone who has yet to play the game. I've yet to play Root.
I think the game's great.
Yes, it is.
Oh, perfect.
It is sitting on my shelf right over there. So I've got it. I'm going to play it at some point.
We also have it on Steam, so we're planning on playing it there as well.
Yes.
Wow, you guys have all the opportunity to play it right now.
I was playing it the other day as well. I was telling Dan about it, and I'm like, yeah, this game's really good.
Yeah. So
it's so good.
You continually and you like always gush over the game. So you got to tell me what's up. Like let me in on it. Like what's your thing with Root and why is it such a good game and why should I play it?
Well, first of all, Dan, you should watch my video of 10 reasons why Root is my favorite game of all time.
We will link that right here.
He just points to the top corner.
Yeah, we're going to link that right here.
Watch that video. But, if you haven't watched that video, obviously, I'll give you some reasons. So this game is like it. I really love this game. I got a freaking tattoo on this game. That's the level that we're at with this game right now.
Dude, that's
and
dedication.
I think it's because it blends everything that I loved about video games and everything that I love about board games, well, at least the types of video games that I enjoy. And it kind of blended those two things perfectly for me. And it painted it in like the most beautiful theme ever. So Root is essentially an asymmetric war game. RTS games like Age of Empires 2, StarCraft 2, those are asymmetric war games. You're building up your civilization, you're building up an army, and you're going out and attacking your opponents. Before Root, I had never experienced a game that gave me that kind of feeling of ownership of my own faction, where I was like, oh, wow, I am the Eerie right now. I am now placing down these bird roosts, and I will score like, kind of consecutively. Whereas you're playing the Marquise de Cat, and you're like the Terran from StarCraft 2. You're building just individual buildings, and each one will score you points. And the more you build of one thing, the better they are. It's like, oh my gosh, I build more recruiters, and then when I recruit, I get more cats. It's like the RTS game. When you build more barracks, you can queue more guys. I was just like, I was blown away by all of these similarities from my favorite genre of video game in a board game. And at the same time, it was so clear. Like, the graphic design in this game is the most, like, every single game should do this. The turn structure is the same for every player. So there's like a birdsong, daylight, and evening phase. And so even if you're playing a different faction, you know what to do. You have to start at birdsong, you go down the list, and then you go to daylight, you go down the list, and then you go to evening and you go down the list. And what is a very complex game with so many different insane interactions now becomes something where, like, oh, I know what I have to do on my turn. Birdsong, daylight, evening. And because of that, I do not think that Root is a hard game to teach. Even though a lot of people are like, it's impossible to teach, you can't teach this game. Because of the way that they structure that, I just teach the golden rules, and then I just walk through everybody's turns one by one time, and then they get it. It's like, it's so intuitive. And on top of that, the theme is amazing. Like, dude, animals fighting in a woodland, the geopolitical themes. It's so much more than just like animals fighting in a woodland. You know, we've got so many different, political schemes going on. You've got like the religious cult. And every single one of them is different. So I think oh my gosh, I could talk about that game forever.
So who's your favorite one to play as?
So my favorite has, I think, always been the Woodland Alliance, because they're like the rebellion faction. I feel like I'm the Rebel Alliance when I'm playing them. You know, you're kind of planning out your supporters. You're spreading around sympathy in the woodland. You're gaining support, kind of like shouting, like, come on, join my rebellion. And then you start exploding around the map with all these little revolutions. And you're literally, murdering entire clearings. And then you're just dropping down bases.
You literally are, yeah.
Yeah, you literally are. Like, the coolest part about it, though, is that there's so much theme in every single faction, and sometimes it's so subtle. Like, for the Woodland Alliance, you know how I was talking about the birdsong daylight evening? Well, most factions do their movements and battle in daylight. However, the Woodland Alliance only do it in evening, and that makes so much sense because they're like an operation. They're like a covert operation. So there's just like little things like that. It's like, ooh, that's like little thematic.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was telling Dan this story about, I was playing Root on Steam, and it got to the point where the birds, the Eerie and the Rebellion people were tied, and I was playing the Vagabond. So I set it up to where, rather than me getting all the points to win, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make it to where when blue or green wins, I can win as well. But I had to pick. I had to pick which one. And there were so many games that I'm like, okay, I know the little Woodland Rebellion is going to win, because they always pull it out. It's rough to beat them, honestly, Dan. It's rough. But I really wanted Eerie to win, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to help them out as much as possible. We're going to try. And then 2 turns later, the little Rebellion guys won the game. I'm like, I could have won. Come on. I knew it.
Everybody, I understand. Like, the Woodland Alliance is like one of the 2 factions that's like harder to stop when you don't understand how to make it work, because like your natural impulse would be to attack them, but that actually makes them stronger.
Rough. Yeah.
And it's making their early game more expensive by essentially surrounding them with tons of units. That way they have to pay extra support in order to spread out into those sympathies, or in order to those clearings. So you have to make it really expensive for them to essentially do their revolution, which is completely thematic to the game. It's just like everything works,
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when you attack them, I believe when both people roll the die, they get the higher of the 2, correct?
Yeah, they get the higher in defense and in offense, because it's guerrilla warfare, like the counterinsurgent faction kind of deal.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough fighting.
Yeah, they have some benefits, but they only have 10 warriors, whereas most factions have like 20. So they're a bit doubled there.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter.
This sounds awesome. Like, I love RTS games. Yeah. So like,
and then oh man, the expansion.
You will love it.
The expansion when it comes out with the otters. I love the otters so much. So they inside the board, there's a river as well. So they're pretty much just along the river, and you can sell people like transport through the river. You can sell people like not merchants, mercenaries as well.
Okay. All right.
And you're pretty much the merchant otters giving people stuff, and then you're just earning more and more.
Do you want to hear the darkest secret about those adorable otters, though? The fact that they take payment from other factions by taking their warrior meeples into their funds box. Yeah. I think there's a little animal trafficking going on there. It's like, here, I'll give you 3 cats as long as I can use your boats this turn. It's like, okay, I'll take the 3 cats. It's like, oh, wow, that was a really dark trade.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I love them, but man, probably not a good cause.
I do have to say, I love the artwork. The artwork looks really cool.
Yes, that was another thing. Is like Kyle Farron has an amazingly storybook, very like heavy theme art style. Like it doesn't look like it was game concept art. It looks like it's a kid's book or an actual book's artwork. I love that style. I
believe he did the same art for Fort. The same, and that's another fun game. I think Fort was like the first time I really saw the artwork, and I'm like, oh, this is really neat. This is really cool. So yeah, well, I think I need to play some Root.
Yeah,
you really need to play some Root, and it's so funny because like, dude, people will like, oh my gosh, I love it. Some of the criticism. Love the game so much. Whenever people are like criticizing it, it's so silly because I'm like, oh, that is actually why I love that game. But like people hate it because like, somebody could literally end the game at like 10 points and another player could be winning the game at 30. But I love that because it's like, dude, if you come from an RTS background, there's people that are better at the game that will just wipe the floor and you will feel that pain. I like that they give players that option to like actually be good at the game. Like you can practice this game and get better. And then you can learn the social politics of your situation and be like, oh, there's a lot more negotiation that I have to get better at. Maybe I'm good at the game on the board, but then there's this whole head game of politics that you're going to have to be like good at making deals, good at making sure that, you're not the strong one at the table. So there's so much strategy. Oh my goodness.
There's the politics game is one of my favorite games to play in like literally every game.
Same.
Yeah, the politics game, and honestly, none so more than in Commander. That's like my favorite part of Commander is the politics. All right. So the way that I stumbled onto your content was through Villainous. So how did you get started into that game? Because I think for a lot of people that follow you, they probably either know you through Root or through Villainous. So how did you get started into Villainous?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because it's so funny, like some people, another one of the common things that I get is like, wow, you love really strategic games, Root. Wow, that's awesome. Then the next game you cover is Villainous. Like, what the frick? I was like, wow, geez, that's really rude. But so Villainous ended up getting to me because I watched a gameplay of it. I think it was Geek and Sundry that did a video of it, Game the Game with Becca Scott. And I watched that video and I was like, okay, asymmetric goals was the first thing that kind of got me interested. But also me and my wife are super obsessed with Disney. So I was like, ooh, this would be like the perfect board game that I know that she would love. And I just bought the base set, sat it down with me and my friends. We played it. And I was so surprised that by the end of the game, even though we had completely different goals throughout the game, we were all like one turn away from winning. It was like super balanced. I was like, how the heck can this be? And then I was like, okay, so where Root is like super asymmetrical, super like a little bit of a, it's a lot to kind of grasp and get a hold of. Villainous is pretty darn simple at the end of the day. Like it's a pretty easy game to teach as opposed to Root, I would say. But it has like the same kind of principle of like asymmetric game design always interests me. And now like Villainous to me is like the staple of an entry into asymmetric game design, like for board games. Still, I'm not going to get into like TCG stuff, but like, because Villainous still is just like a board game to me. Like but like that game is perfect. And I feel like a lot of other games need to take some of those concepts of how they were able to take such simple mechanics and yet still give very, very different outcomes for player positions. Like how that, I still boggles my mind sometimes.
Yeah. So it's funny you say the fact about you were all like one turn away from winning. That was one of the things that I was, when I first started playing this game, that I was really blown away by in multiplayer matches. I always found it to be everybody at the table was so close to winning. I'm like, how is that even possible? And then I sat down and played 1v1, and then that's just a whole other story.
Yeah, completely different game.
Yeah. So
I know nobody ever asks me what my opinion is on that too, because it's like I think a lot of people assume that because I'm making videos of strategy guides for the game that I was making it exclusively for 1v1. And a lot of people, I would get so many comments early on like, oh, this would actually never work. Oh, this actually isn't a good strategy. Oh, no, this never would work. And I'm like, wait, do you just play 1v1 ? And they'd be like, yeah, exclusively 1v1. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, of course that wouldn't work.
Right.
The game is so like limited in some ways for some villains at 1v1 because you get faded freaking like 7 times. So your board is already like limited by just spaces you can move. So I made the strategy videos as like a general strategy guide on like how this character works, what each card can do.
Right.
You could take these, but they're not guaranteed to work in all player accounts.
Yeah, I feel like Villainous is the perfect the perfect case study of a game that when played in multiplayer looks so much different than when it's played in 1v1. And I feel like a lot of people, they look at a game, again, like Villainous, for instance, and they completely don't even think about that as a fact. They're just like, oh, it's Villainous and this is how it is. Well, it's kind of not, because really it's really like two completely different and separate games. When I sit down in a 1v1, I'm going to play it, and it's going to be a completely different experience than it is when I'm sitting down for a multiplayer game. And I think you have to understand that and realize that in when you go into it. Like for the longest time, I didn't. And I feel like that's hard to do when it's a game or like anything that you enjoy, like that you really love to do. It's kind of hard to make a realization like that. I feel like. I mean, what do you think, Sam?
Yeah, like I don't know, because like for me, like some people genuinely do enjoy the 1v1 experience. Like, and I respect that. Like, if you enjoy that experience, I respect that. For me, I enjoy the 1v1 experience like half the time because it is so heavily dependent on what villains I'm playing. I think even in like the competitive Villainous community, they actually do like multiple matches, which immediately makes sense because you'd be like, there are some matches that are very heavily favored by one villain than the other. So you'd want to do multiple matches because that just wouldn't be fair. Right. So like 1v1, I don't. Oh, and also competitive Disney Villainous, it doesn't have to mean like you're like so competitive that like there's no other way to play this game. Like I play the game competitively, I would say, but I'm not like a hardcore competitive Disney Villainous player. I guess if that makes sense. I find myself to be very much like a casual player who likes to be good at it. If that adds up. Yeah. So I just like to have fun at the end of the day too. So I'm not like out here trying to just, scourge my opponent every turn and win.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. That's not the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the goal. That is the goal. Right. And at 1v1, I actually start feeling bad is the thing. It's like, oh, well, if I go here, I get another fade action. I might as well. Let's just face you again. Let's just keep going, know? But like at group games, I'm like, okay, I have the puzzle of who should I fate? What are their current positions in the game? Oh, they're about 25% of their goal. No need. 75% of their goal, fate them, you know, and
Right.
that is so much more interesting negotiation wise for me. Like that puzzle, instead of just like, I'm going to fate you, I'm going to fate you, I'm going to fate you, I'm going to fate you. I've already covered all the spots. You know, it's like, okay, well, I've run out of fun fating now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think we just talked about that topic, like fun is subjective, and I think it was our last episode. But I think a lot of people just realize that like what's fun for you may not be fun for somebody else, and that's fine. But I also look at Villainous and I'm like, it's hard when we're competitive and strategic players. Like we always gravitate towards games that are more strategic and competitive in nature than a game that isn't.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Villainous is a game that wasn't designed for that super competitive player type in mind. And that's fine. So, but I do feel like it was designed more as a casual family experience, kitchen table. Hey, let's get everybody together and sit down and play. So when you have strategic and competitive players like us sit down and play it, we approach the game from a completely different mindset. And then there's multiple times where I've played it, and you'll probably see this soon, where I'm frustrated and upset because I am not advancing towards my goal. Like I am not winning, and I'm just getting shut down. I advance and shut down, advance and shut down again. And then like that's not fun because again, my mindset is I'm trying to win. And it's not that I'm not trying to have a good time, but I'm trying to win, and that's like the main goal.
Yeah.
So, like for me, once I after that game, I'm like, you know what? I don't really think that this was designed for this type of play. I think if I just adjust my mindset of how I'm approaching this game, and then just really just relax and just really enjoy the theme, because my favorite part about this game, about Villainous, is the theming. I feel like they get all these villains on point. You mentioned that about Radigan, right?
Yeah.
We
After watching the movie, I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing.
The detail is insane.
Yes. We sat down and we played, and he had never seen The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah.
So after the game, we sat down, we watched the movie, and he was like, okay, yeah, all of that makes so much sense now. So like it's
Totally.
very cool. Did you have to because like you just spoke about being a very strategic player, talking about RTS games. Did you have to adjust your mindset a little bit when you were playing Villainous, or kind of how did you come to a realization like this?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. I think it's pretty much the same kind of thing that you were kind of going through there. Because like for me, Villainous was designed so much with. It's not necessarily that all these villains were designed to be. I mean, sure, they were designed to be balanced as much as they can be, but you know, asymmetric design can only be balanced to a certain extent. Anyways, there's never going to be pure balance. But like, it was so much more designed to, when you play this character, do you feel like you're playing this villain? Like, do I feel like I can get in the mindset of Maleficent or Prince John just gaining power? I feel like it was designed with. You know, you're sitting at the table and you're becoming these villains for one night. You know, that's like the core premise of this game. I think it's so funny. Like people will be like, why on earth would they put there's the 4 dozen eggs or 5 dozen eggs card for Gaston's deck that's it's cost 4 power, and people were like, this is the worst card in the game. I'll never use it. This is a bad game design. Why is this in the deck? And I'm like, okay, look, when Gaston was young, he had 4 dozen eggs every morning to help him grow large.
Right,
okay.
Right.
You know, like it's not always about the like strategy that the character can provide. It's sometimes just about how much we love Disney and why it's great and all the inside jokes and the Easter eggs that you can find in these decks. So
Question, what does the card even do?
The 4 dozen.
it actually,
I have no idea.
it gets +2 strength to the ally attached to.
Okay, all right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. It's completely thematic to Gaston, but also it is I think it's a fun punishment because like if you didn't position your allies well, you should pay the 4 power to make sure that you could actually have enough strength to defeat the ally, because he can't move any of his allies. So if you make mistakes, you should get a little punished and have to pay that amount to get the thing removed. So I thought it was kind of cool anyways. But yeah, people try to, jump on my fun all the time. They're like, not a strategic card. Oh my gosh. Why would you ever put that in there? Yeah. It's like, come on.
Yeah. So the first time I played Gaston, I was singing his song like so many times, like 4 dozen eggs. I see the card, I'm like humming it to myself.
Yes,
same. But that's my favorite part of the game. The first time I sat down and I played Jafar. Aladdin was my favorite movie when I was a kid. So my parents will attest to that. So when we got the game, I pulled it out. I'm like, they got Jafar. I claim Jafar. No one else is playing Jafar.
Right.
And so I remember sitting down and I'm going through it. I'm like, holy cow! I'm like literally playing through this movie right now that I loved when I was a kid. I still do, and I'm just like, this is just so cool. It's so cool, right? And so it bummed me out when I just wasn't having that fun of a time with the game, and I'm like, maybe I just need to play this just in a more casual setting, in a more casual environment. And then also just understand and realize, Dan, the competitive Dan, this game was not made for the competitive Dan. It wasn't. It was made for Dan and his wife and their friends to just sit down and chill and have a good time. And then when I play in that scenario, it's fun. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And and also this is a game to where, like, if I wanted to, and people do, they take a game that is like, they take a casual game and make it competitive, or they take a competitive game and make it casual. Like that's something that's very interesting to see. So
yes.
like Villainous, I think Villainous is a good example of a game that was designed to be casual, that you have a community that's made it into something that's more competitive. And then if you look at Commander for Magic, like Magic is a game that was designed to be competitive, right? And then you have the Commander format, which is a much more casual format. It's so cool.
And then people turn that format into a competitive format.
Right.
Of course, as always.
right. But it's very interesting. And I think it's cool that you can see these communities form around a game that they enjoy, whether it be casual or competitive. I think it's a cool thing to see, but then at the same time, just we're all humans, and human beings sometimes tend to do things that, other human beings don't like, right? So that's the only thing humans, we're not, I don't even know where I'm going with that.
I understand where you're going with it, though. I understand. Here's kind of like the way that I see it. It's like I am so happy that this competitive Villainous community started for this game. I think that's so cool. I love everything that they do. That's not the way that I enjoy Villainous. And I think that once people respect that of me, I am much more respectful of them in that way. It's like, dude, that's just not how my brain even thinks. Like, I'm not out here trying to think of the 60 different card interactions that this scimitar can do in Jafar's deck. Like, I'm not thinking like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I get questions like some of these, I'm just like, I don't even want to think like that. Like, why are you trying to take away the magic of this game for me? Like, that's not how I play this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like to play. Here's the thing. I did make strategy guides. So obviously I have it somewhere in me. And honestly, I think that when I first started making these strategy guides, I definitely was more in the mind of this game is super competitive. Like I can do this. You can kind of get there. And I think I just started slowly drifting away from that. But I found that these videos provided so much value still to the casual gamer that comes in and actually doesn't understand how the villain works. A lot of people use my videos just to learn how the villain works, not necessarily to get better at them. Yeah. Which is why I do a little teaching segment of oh, this is how the character works. Here's my little mini strategy tip about something that you could do with it if you want to think a little bit more strategically. And I do that with every single card now. And it's just become a thing like where if I miss a card, people will literally know. And so I have to do every card now. It's kind of fun. But yeah, I give like little strategy tips all throughout the video. And then I hope that by the end of that video, you go into your first couple games having an idea of what to do with these villains. You don't have to be a professional, but you can enjoy playing them and feel like you're at least doing well.
Yeah. The final thing that I'll say about Villainous is the one thing that I finally realized is you have to read these villain guides. So
yes,
it helps.
So as card game players, and I'm curious as to your opinion on this, because when I first got into this game, I fully expected to be able to just read the cards and then really understand how everything worked and really kind of know what to do, because I mean we're card game players at heart, right? So that's where our mindset really comes from. And then also with Villainous was like the first game that kind of really got me into the tabletop hobby. So before that, I wasn't really into go to BGG, go to the internet, figure out what, all these interactions do. My mind was, well, I should be able to open the box and then figure out from there what everything does. Right. I wasn't able to. So for a little bit, I was a little upset because I'm like, dang it, I should be able to open this box and then be able to figure everything out on the one hand. And then also as a card game player, we're like, we play Magic. We play the oldest card game ever. If we can read these cards, if we can understand Magic cards, we can understand how these cards work.
Right.
I did not know how wrong I was. But again, but I will say, now that I'm like, well, this really wasn't made for that type of audience. It was made more for the casual player and the casual family just to sit down and have a good time. When I realized that, I'm like, okay, that makes more sense to me than why it's not making sense when I'm applying this type of logic to it.
Yeah. They definitely try to keep the text wall down a little bit if they can. Dude, Magic the Gathering, great game, but boy, the text walls on every card sometimes, it's like, oh wow, every single card has quite a few sentences to learn exactly how it works and all that stuff. And I love that sometimes, but it's like these are very different games. Like that's a trading card game. I come from background of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, so I also played Magic, but I was much more of a Yu-Gi-Oh player.
I was about to say, if you think card wall or text walls on Magic's bad, Yu-Gi-Oh is
Yu-Gi-Oh is insane. They're like the king of text walls. I mean, everything has. The normal cards are the easiest to understand.
Yeah, it's all flavor text at that point. So for like certain archetypes, right? Every card on it, like the entire first 80% of the cards are pretty much always the same. Right. So a lot of the stuff could be like, oh, get this effect when you have, we'll call it spiritual knights, whatever it is. And then be able to special summon. When this card is now special summoned, well, you have a spiritual knight. And now it finally tells you what the effect is at the last sentence of the card. So many cards are like this. It's terrible.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Here's the thing. Like, that's why I'm saying it's like, man, that is a different type of game experience right there. And I never saw like Villainous as that type of game experience. One, it's like it's more of like a living, if anything, it would be like a living card game because there's no real deck manipulation or anything. So you just get your set character, you get your set deck, and that's the deck forever.
Yeah.
There's also no like actual combat. There's no like actual like fighting. It's so confusing because it's like, okay, you get your own deck of cards, but that own deck of cards is what hurts you. Yeah. And it's very limited on what you can do with that own deck of cards. You draw two, you play one. So it's like, I had to wrap my brain around, okay, I can't attack. I'm just fading, and it's very abstracted version of slowing them down. Okay, I get it now. I kind of get that. You're throwing these heroes into their story, and I think that's cool. It's beautiful. I love the design so much. It's just like not. It's definitely not a trading card game.
Yes.
I guess also Marvel Villainous is more of like an attacking specific person because now you're revealing one card and then being like,
and then choosing.
Now we're going to put it on you or this person if there's multiple people.
Right. I do have to say I thought it was funny when they announced Star Wars Villainous. They said We don't use the K word.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't use kill.
Hey, it's the K word. Jim.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's the K
kill.
word.
I said the word.
I don't know if it was in multiple articles or it was just one, but when I read that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's true. They don't. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, never. It's always defeat,
defeat.
vanquish,
Extermination.
Yeah.
tire them out.
That just sounds bad, Jim. That just
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. So so I think the last thing I'll say about Villainous is, it's a game that I enjoy for one reason, right? And then this kind of ties into another topic that I will probably have the discussion at another time, but like I enjoy it for one reason, but then I see these other people, they enjoy it for a completely different reason, right? That's great because at the end of the day, they enjoy the same game that I enjoy. I don't want to take away from them having the fun that they're having because they're having it in a different way.
Yeah.
So like that is great. That's cool. And anytime a game can branch off into multiple different directions and really touch so many different groups and segments of people, then I think they've won. Like at the end of the day, I think
100%.
I think the designers have did their job really. Like
right.
Even acknowledging that maybe the game wasn't made for me. If the game wasn't made for me and I can still have fun with it, dude, I think everybody wins in that scenario. Yeah. So
yeah, it was made for a different aspect of you.
Yeah.
Maybe this is, more casual Dan coming into activation mode, you know? Right. I don't know. Well, who knows? Maybe you just didn't know.
And I said this to Jim, but multiple times, but before we started doing Hobbies and Happiness, like and you can even talk to my wife and other family members, they'll attest to this as well. Anytime I'd sit down for a game, there would be times people didn't want to play because I would be so competitive, and I would take the fun out of the game for other people, and that was to my own detriment. That was all my fault. Like I'll admit that up front. But I think Villainous kind of has helped in just chilling me out a little bit and say, relax, have fun, be casual, and just enjoy the time. Enjoy the time around the table with the group that you're spending the time with.
Definitely.
So for that, I think it's been great. Even when I'm not having fun in the specific game, it has really helped always enjoy and have a good time around the table. So what kind of player are you? Like you've spoken to kind of both sides of you. Like do you tend to be more casual? Do you tend to be more competitive? Or does it depend on the game?
It depends on the game, but I will say that I'm usually the type to become like very obsessed with a game and try to master it. Like I'm not the type to just play like dozens and dozens of games, even though I know you see a lot of games behind me, but I'm not like the type, this is a really bad example, but I'm not.
Don't look. Do not look.
There's nothing back here.
Dozens of dozens of games inside of one specific game.
Yeah, right.
He's not playing like 1,000 games of Tapestry.
Yeah.
He's not playing 1,000 games on Prince John.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly it. So I would say that my brain usually, because like Lord of the Board, it is very much like what I like to do with games. I like to break them down mechanically, figure out how they work and how to abuse the mechanics in order to win. That sounds wrong, but I want to basically learn those mechanics and master those. And if I can figure that out, even if I'm not good at doing those and executing those, I like to learn how that works and share that information. And so I like playing a game over and over and over again. And some games I have just come to terms, I am not good at those games. And that's fine. So I'm not like so competitive and so like that like I will just get frustrated at the game. I just understand I'm not good at it. My brain doesn't work that way. My wife beats me at way more games than I beat her at. Like, man, Root is one of the few ones, but like she is so much smarter than me. She can just find the puzzles. Like we just played this like twice and you're already like doing crazy things and you're like quite a bit higher than me in my score. I'm like, what are you doing? And so I try to like interview her and figure out what was her brain going with that. So I think I'm just like a learner and a researcher, and I really enjoy learning how games work at the end of the day. And I do use that in a competitive way to beat my opponents and demolish them on the field if I can.
Yeah, you're more like
but I'm
Batman.
not disappointed.
You know, you're more like Batman. You just need that time and research, and then you're just going to be able to beat anyone.
Yes, beat me 1,000 times and I'll beat you once. Smash Brothers is a great example of this. I don't know if you guys play Smash Brothers at all, but I play a lot of competitive Smash Brothers.
Really?
That is one of the games that's like, dude, you have to, like, you're learning a character. Okay, competitive. I mean, as much competitive as I can be. I have a really, really good GPS score on Smash Ultimate right now, so I'm doing pretty well. But like, that's the game where like you're playing with your friends, you know, and you have to learn sometimes. It's better not to just demolish them if you can. You know, sometimes a game's environment can be just to play for fun. And maybe you should do that.
Right.
It's a good lesson.
Especially if the person is learning the game. Smash is a completely different monster than like any other fighting game out there. You compare it to Mortal Kombat. It's nothing like it at all, right? Especially when it's someone new, they're like, how am I supposed to do that one move you did? And you're like, well, you hurry up and tap the jump button and then you use neutral, but then you're also tilting in a downward slope. So that way you can angle it towards the edge. But they're like, what?
It's so true. It's so true.
They're like, you know, I'm going to play Little Mac and just punch you. Just haymaker all day.
Right.
Just haymaker.
And then that's so sad because when you're Little Mac and you fall off the map, you're like, wait, I can't actually make it back? Like, what's terrible? Little Mac is so bad at making it back on that map, man. Oh, my word.
Fighting games are a whole other monster because I mean I remember I used to play a lot of Injustice.
Yeah,
that was my fighting game. Injustice and Mortal Kombat too.
Yeah. That's the other thing about it is you don't have like 100% health bar. Once you get it to 0, you lose. Yeah. In Smash, you have to get ring out.
Yep. Yep, you have to get smacked off the map.
Yeah,
I like it because it's so much more like a platformer, and I really like platforming games like the original Mario Bros. And all that. So kind of gives me those vibes when I'm trying to get back on the map and all that. It's so fun. Good times.
So what since joining the content creator tabletop community, we'll say, what is one of the things that you've learned the most in your almost 3-year content creation journey now?
Do not listen to the haters, my friends. That is the biggest thing I can say. Cause like even starting off with, if you're coming in and doing strategy tips, it's kind of a really bold position to jump in on because everybody's assuming that you are saying that you're better than them at said thing, essentially. Like that's essentially the assumption that they're coming into the video. Oh, this person is good, therefore I am not good. And I am coming here to learn from this person who is better at the game than me. And that mindset going into my videos often comes with comments like, wow, I came in to hear a strategy guide, but instead I actually knew everything you said. And really, you're actually playing this character totally wrong. It's like, oh, really? Thanks for letting me know. It's like, oh my gosh. So I had to get used to not paying any attention to those kinds of comments. Cause it's like, and it's so funny. Cause like I used to actually get like super heated about this stuff, like legit angry, because I would be like, really, like that's what you get out of this video. Like I'm trying to provide it, even if you did know all of that information that I stated, why smack me down in the process? Isn't this going to be helpful for somebody else, you know? And a lot of my videos have like a tagged beginner tips. If they are beginner tips, you know, like, and people just don't pay that any attention. They'll just be like, this would never work in a competitive setting. It's like, okay, all right, man. So at the end of the day though, I think what I've learned is you just got to do what you are good at doing and keep doing that thing, and always treat those hatred comments with kindness, because you can get a lot of converts. There's a couple ways you can go about it. One, you could just delete the comment. That's super easy to do. And it feels so good to have that power. They're like, they'll never know, you know, like just delete it. Boom. You have that power on YouTube, which is a great tool. But also what I like doing now even more is just being like, wow, those are really great thoughts. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
I mean, they're like, I'm better than you. I have all the strategy tips. Your video sucks. What you said was wrong. And my response is, thank you for sharing, or wow, never thought of that. That's awesome. And oftentimes, like, I'll get these random responses to those types of comments later, though, like months after, a year and a half as a reply. And they'll just be like, hey, I just wanted to apologize for that comment. I was going through a hard time and I just sent that. Like, you honestly seem like a nice person. And it's like, whoa, dude, like, honestly, just treat people with kindness, because you have no idea what people are going through. And those annoying comments that you're getting, it might have just been a bad mood that they were in. And, you know, yeah, just try to kill them with kindness. You know, you could never say it enough. So that's what my whole thing has been. And I've been much happier because of it. Also, do not follow the views. Do not follow any of that stuff, because it will disappoint you. Always use goals that are actually achievable. So instead of saying something like, hey, here's my goal by the end of this month, I'm going to get 1,000 subscribers, and you're going month by month by month, not getting like 3 subscribers, it actually kills you. Like that kind of stuff will kill a content creator. That's what creates burnout. Instead, why don't you make goals that you can achieve? Goals like, how about I get 2 videos out this week? I could get 3 videos out this week. Every single content creator needs to get out at least 100 videos before they even feel confident in front of this camera. Like, you just need to get out videos. It doesn't matter. So and that's something that you can control. I can defeat that. Like, I can make that goal and I can complete that goal. I cannot complete and control people to subscribe to my channel. People will just watch and not subscribe.
Yep.
Subscribe to viewer ratios are terrible. It hurts, and they just don't work. So yeah, so, you know, I think those are the 2 things that I'd probably say. Kill everyone with kindness and make achievable goals.
Okay. Yeah. One of my big pushes and mantras is, you know, always do your best to treat everyone with kindness and empathy, even when it's hard. I mean, that's, you know, I'm a big, you know, it's part of my faith. It's also like Gary V. I'm a big Gary V fan, and it's
nice.
It's very interesting listening to somebody as successful as Gary Vaynerchuk has been and is in business, and he continually and constantly preaches empathy and kindness. And I'm like, I really love that you have someone so very popular in a position like he is, and just tells everyone to be empathetic and be kind. I'm like, that's great. And honestly, you know, you hit the nail on the head. You feel better at the end of the day when you treat someone else with kindness. And you feel really good even when it's the hard thing to do, but you still do it. You feel conversations going the wrong way, but you do your best to be kind. And then you see that person that you're talking to, they in turn are kind back to you, and it's a really good feeling. At the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. But when it feels good, you know, that's just a really that really gives you that sense of gratification. So you know, we've kind of touched on, you know, the haters and kind of things that you don't like. What's been your favorite thing about the tabletop community?
Oh man, easily the people so far. And it's really interesting because, like, I found myself, it's kind of interesting. There's a couple different communities. There's like three different communities. Cause I feel like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm not full of myself, but I have like my community, which is like the comment section on like my stuff. Anybody a part of the Discord, I would consider a part of like my community, like mine and Tim's community as well. But like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's that community that I've like grown to love and cherish. And then there is the different communities that I have like engaged in, especially like the Root community, the Villainous community, because obviously I made videos for them, and they just, you know, it's a good community to be a part of. Then there's the other content creators. That's a whole other community that has just been amazing. And I think that throughout it all, those relationships are something that I would never have had if I hadn't have started and jumped in here. And those are just like, I just recently went to Dice Tower West.
Yes.
And Oh man, it was humbling because there would be people that would recognize me, and it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, you've been watching my videos for years.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
it made me almost want to cry, and like that type of stuff is so humbling to me. And then also meeting other content creators and like. Wow, like we have a similar thing. Like we've been talking for like 2.5 years. Meeting Tim, for example, it
Yeah.
was like I was meeting my best friend that
Mhm.
I had just never talked with in person,
Mhm.
but we already had so much in common. We already had so many things that we had known, and so just meeting in person was like I'm re-meeting an old friend.
Mhm.
Those relationships, man, it's amazing. Like the board game community at the end of the day is just so incredible, even with difference in background, anything that we're, like our politics, our religion, anything. The board games is like what can bring so many different types of people together, and that is awesome.
Yeah, I was looking through a bunch of pictures from Dice Tower West. I'm like, man, seeing all those people there looks like they had a really great time. Little jealous, but yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. Well, it looks like a lot of fun.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was so blessed to be able to go.
No,
dude.
yeah,
I was
for
like,
sure.
I was stoked.
Yeah. So, the last thing I kind of want to ask you, and I threw this question out in your Discord a little bit ago. But as we said before, like we're definitely, we view ourselves as card game players, right? And that's kind of what we're building Hobbies and Happiness around, is more so we're card game players, and that's really what we enjoy. Now, when someone says they're a card game player, I feel like you've got three different types of groups, right?
The people who are correct.
Yeah.
And then there's those who don't play Magic, Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So you've got your card game players, and then you have board game players, or just board games, right? And then the other one was, I think I just said, role playing games, basically.
Yeah, you can say that. Or minis as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so like Villainous is a game that is a card game, but it's also a board game. And like I enjoy having this discussion because I think the only reason I think it's important is more so from like if I were to give a recommendation to somebody of a game that they would enjoy. Like for me, if there's a game that says the card game, I'm probably gonna like it. Like there's a couple of games like the Lord of the Rings, the card game, Arkham Horror, the card game. We love those games. They're so much fun. And there's plenty of also Lord of the Rings board games that are completely different games, right? And so
Right.
I think it's important, and again, important. It's not really important, right? If we're talking about like what's actually important, it's useful. I think it's useful more so in like labeling what a game is, just from the standpoint of this will probably, if you like this type of game, then you're probably gonna like this. Like if you play Magic and like all you enjoy are those competitive card games, then I don't know if you're probably not gonna like Villainous, right?
Right.
So and I've also found that I feel like there you have card game players who I feel like a lot of card game players play board games and enjoy board games, but I haven't seen the opposite. I haven't seen a lot of board game players who enjoy playing the card games as much.
A lot of it tends to be for like money reasons.
That's what I think I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But because I'm always, we talked about like fun is subjective, but also I want to understand like what someone else likes.
Yeah.
So that way, if they ask me, I had somebody ask me my recommendations for some games that they would enjoy the other day. And so I think it's helpful I need to understand why someone likes what they do or why they wouldn't like what they do. So like have you noticed, or am I noticing something else? Like do board gamers like stay in their lane? Do they mostly enjoy playing board games and not venture off into other card games? Or what have you noticed, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's that's a really tough question.
I know.
'Cause, like there's some really popular like for example, Becca Scott, the one just a huge example of Geek and Sundry and stuff, and she was doing Game the Game. Now she has her own thing, which is called Good Time Society. But she was actually one of my hugest inspirations for actually starting a YouTube channel. And she does a lot of Magic the Gathering, but also a lot of role-playing games, but also a lot of board games.
Right.
She is like a complete omni gamer. She does all of those, and she does them all really well. And I think it's really hard to like say like, oh, this person, they just like board games. I've seen a really wide range, because I feel like there's a lot of people that come from card games and then have come from a background of card games. Like, oh, I used to play card games.
Yeah.
Because I feel like card games were very, very popular when we were like in our teenage years as well. Like Pokemon was like a very early huge thing for me, from Pokemon to Yu-Gi-Oh to Magic, like all these types of things. But then I ended up discovering other things. And so now that's kind of like a past thing. Do you see what I'm saying? I feel like for a lot of people, trading card games were a past thing. And that's what you're kind of seeing, is that now they're into board games, but they used to play card games. The people that are still playing card games, though, like my brother's a really good example. So he actually loves card games so much, and board games as well, and Warhammer. So he's kind of like in those three communities.
My man.
Yep.
What was that?
I said, my man.
Yep.
I recently got into Warhammer.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yes. There you go. So that is literally him. I'm like video games, board games, and then
my man. Like, I just do everything.
Yeah, right.
If it has game in it somewhere, I'm doing it.
Yep.
Right. Dude, Hearthstone was actually a huge thing for me, because I was like, oh, video game, trading card game. All right. My new obsession. I got to legendary in that game. Man, oh my gosh. That game was amazingly fun for me. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, we all have these things that we just like, and I feel like there's so many different avenues to go in now too. Like people have some weird types of board games that I'm like, I would never play that type of board game. But I understand that you like that type of board game, Right. And I still haven't even dabbled like fully into RPGs. Like the only reason why I bought an RPG was because of Root made an RPG. And so now I have like Root the RPG right over here. Never played it. Totally going to play this one. So, I think I'm pretty willing and open. So to answer your question, which was like totally terrible answer to that, I would say that people are more varied in what they like than you probably would think. Yeah. But it's just that you have to dig in and find it out, because they have something in their past. Even if they don't have it now, they probably played card games at one point. They're definitely dabbling in video games. Like, we're all just nerds.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
They probably love movies too. You should ask about some good movies. I mean, I'm like a movie obsessive. That'd probably be my third thing. It would probably be video games, board games, and movies. So
like, for us, we're kind of gearing Hobbies and Happiness more so around a lot of card games, because that's just awesome. That's our love, and that's what we really enjoy. And so
pretty much my entire life has been card games.
Yeah,
so.
and what I don't like is like, I don't want to, if I say card games, I don't want to like scare somebody off by like, oh, you card games? Oh no. Well, it's like, well, hang on, like. Let's get to know you. Like, let's get to know what you like, and then maybe there's something here, because even you say card games, there's so many different kinds of card games. It's fantastic. I'm always asking the question why, and then like I'm always seeking to understand, and so I'm always on that. It's like a lifelong journey that like we're always learning in the process, and then learning, and then understanding, and then it's all cyclical. It's pretty crazy.
It's also.
So you guys are a card game channel. So you guys play Uno, right? Is this the wrong channel here? Okay. Competitive Uno?
Actually, I just played Paw Patrol Uno with my kids the other day. They loved it. They love Paw Patrol.
I was gonna say as well. Like I also know like an older generation, if they're like, oh, let's play cards, I'm like, all right, this means poker, this means blackjack, this means spades, this means cribbage, whatever it is. And I'm also like, all right, I'll enjoy these games, especially if it's spades. There's a lot more strategy going in that game. But it's like, they're like, all right, shuffle up. I'm like, these cards don't have sleeves. This feels weird. And they're like, I thought you played cards. I'm like, yeah, I do. Let me sleeve these up real quick. These are standard size? All right, perfect.
Oh
They're
my
like,
gosh,
you
I completely get you there.
Yeah, I'm like, I
Completely
deal
get you
out
there.
cards pretty quickly, which is fine. But yeah, the shuffling thing, they're like, you don't know how to bridge those together. I'm like, that's not how I shuffle, guys. Come on.
Right.
I'm over here like power shuffling in different groups really quickly.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Sam, that was. I don't think I've had this much fun in a while. So, thank you for that. But Sam, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me in a lot of different places, but YouTube is like my main squeeze, like come to the YouTube scene. Main squeeze. Okay. Yeah.
We're leaving that in there.
Yeah. I don't know where that one came from. Come visit the YouTube channel.
I'm telling your wife.
Got him! All right, I'm gonna head out. I think we did what
I
we
love
were
it.
gonna do.
I love it. Yeah. So that's like the main thing. And then if you want to hear I should probably start promoting it more. So YouTube strategy content, that's where that's at. Instagram, it's like if I do take pictures, that's where it will be. Will be on Instagram. The best pictures will be there, but I'm not like consistent on there or anything. Twitter, if you want to know what's going on with my life, what my thoughts are on random games, sometimes I randomly review stuff on there, or I'll ask questions, do polls. Twitter is actually the place that you can find me, and that's a good place to go if you want to know what's going on. I've been having so many people where are the bigger and badder strategy videos? Where are the bigger and badder videos? Where did they go? Why haven't I seen them? Why are they not out? Why weren't they out at release? It's like, guys, I've answered this question so many times. On my Twitter, on the community tab on YouTube, in my Discord, on my Instagram story, on my Facebook page, and yet you somehow missed every single one of them. It's like, so follow me everywhere, and then you will always know all the news on what's going on. But yeah, I have a link tree, so just find that.
Perfect. And we will be sure to link all of Sam's socials in the
That'd be awesome.
in the descriptions of wherever you're listening or watching this. So, with that being said, Sam, thanks a lot for being here. We had a lot of fun, and we will be sure to have you on in the future, sir.
Yes, thank you for having me, guys.
All right, see you later. Dude, I've not had that much fun in a long time.
Wow.
Through that conversation, I'm like, okay, video games, RTS,
Yeah.
Disney, Villainous, just
my man.
So yeah, right, exactly. Exactly. That was a fantastic conversation. I already can't wait to have him on again.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Sam, thanks again. Thank you so much. That was such a great conversation. It's always nice getting to chat with other content creators, and really anybody else in the tabletop space. So great conversation, Sam. Thank you so much. All right, and with that, we're gonna jump into the card of the week. Card of the week number 3. Card of the week number 3. Last week we talked about Nth Metal, which Jim thought was Heat Vision, but that's okay. That's okay.
Both great cards.
Exactly. And if you caught us on stream the other day, you saw both of them in action.
Yeah. I'm a baller, Dan.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a baller. What can I say?
So today we're bringing it back to another awesome card game, Pokemon the card game. Speaking of Pokemon, got more cards over there. We're in the process of building a few decks. Can't wait. I love this game.
I can't wait to play that live on stream.
Yes. So we're going to talk about probably the most popular card in the history of Pokemon the card game. That's Charizard. And it's not just any Charizard.
It is first edition shadowless base set Charizard.
Mm-hmm. So I'll go ahead and read the card for you. So Charizard is fire Pokemon, 120 HP. His Pokemon power says energy burn. As often as you like during your turn before you attack, you may turn all energy attached to Charizard into fire energy for the rest of the turn. This power can't be used if Charizard is asleep, confused, or paralyzed. And then he has an attack, which is Fire Spin. It is 4 fire energy, and says discard 2 energy cards attached to Charizard in order to use this attack for 100 damage. Honestly, I mean, his card's okay. It's not that great of a card.
When we do think about what it was back then,
Yeah.
this was one-shotting a lot of
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Yeah. That's true. That is true.
The meta back then was like Electabuzz, Hitmonchans as well. I believe Scyther was on the list as well, because they had low energy requirements to be dealing a good amount of damage.
Yeah.
But if you were able to set the Charizard up, they were all under 100 HP.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and with Pokemon, like that's one of the big things you're looking for, especially now, is you want a one hit KO
or two.
Or
two hit KO
one or
is,
two hit
is
KO,
very standard.
These Pokemon. So that's the big thing you want to look for. So like he was good, but it's not like he was an amazing Pokemon. Like even now, like the reason Charizard is so popular is not because it's an amazing card. It's mostly because he is the most popular Pokemon. Like pretty much in the history of the game.
Yeah.
Charizard is like the face of Pokemon.
I mean, technically Pikachu's the face.
Right. Unofficial face.
Yeah.
Like we can say unofficial face, I feel like. So Charizard, if you follow like the news kind of at all, there's last year there was a Charizard that was auctioned off for about $310,000. It was a gem. It was a 10 mint, a PSA 10
gem
mint. Okay, for $311,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Now earlier this month, there was a Charizard that sold for even more. I think this is the most expensive Pokemon card ever sold, for $336,000 at Heritage Auction.
So, real quick,
I believe.
I don't know if this was or if Pokemon Illustrator was. There's only 6 of those in the world.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a PSA 10.
Yeah, I don't think.
Regardless, card of the week is still Charizard.
Yeah.
Very expensive card. Also, the Pokemon Illustrator was not from an actual set. You had to write in like an article or submit a picture like a bunch of years ago, and then they would mail out winners of the contest the Pokemon Illustrator card, and that's how you got that. Yeah. So Charizard himself was just from the original base set. Or this specific one. Yeah.
Now, I also want to point out it's interesting to know that if you look at the history of the Charizard cards, okay, the base set cards, they're not all created equal.
No,
they're not. Even with the first edition, I believe, there's two. There's like you have the first edition, and then you have the unlimited edition. I believe, right? Yeah. And there's kind of one big thing with the base set that kind of gives them away, other than that first edition stamp. It's the shadow. Okay, so I believe with that first edition, they are the shadowless.
Yeah,
I believe. And then I believe after that they started putting the drop shadows on the Pokemon cards.
There was also a thing with the packs as well that it had a black triangle in the bottom right, I believe, corner of the pack itself.
Okay.
Which then, if you were able to find that pack, it's also already instantly more rare than just a normal pack as well. So now, if you're able to prove that you now have this pack along with the Charizard that is being pulled from it, it's even far more valuable. So, and there was actually a video of a Pokemon YouTuber opening up packs, and he opens up an original base set of Pokemon, and he's cracking a few packs. He didn't even notice every pack in there had a black triangle.
Really?
And he's like, "Oh my God, I'm just ripping these open like they're nothing."
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you have just the pack itself or the wrapper itself, it's still worth something.
Now Pokemon received quite an amount of attention last year, I believe. Due to a pretty popular YouTuber, Logan Paul. So what I think happened is I believe he spent like $2 million on a first edition box.
Yeah, I forget.
One box, or it might have been one box or a couple boxes. I've got the article right here. But I thought the article said like one first edition box.
Oh, all right. So if it was that, I think it was longer than a year ago because last year he fought Mayweather.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when he had the PSA 10 Charizard hanging around his neck. But before then, I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago, is when he bought the box from some guy who's very controversial inside the Pokemon YouTube community. He's had a lot of hiccups, is what we'll say. He had a lot of hiccups, and
is that what happened, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
I was not aware of that.
So Logan Paul, I believe it was, he even brought a few other people. One other guy who is a very legitimate Pokemon person on YouTube, and the guy who bought the box from, he was even saying like from the start, if there's anything wrong with the box, I still have the contact info of the original owner. If there's anything wrong, he said he'd be able to get our money back, blah, blah, blah. And then he was even like giving hints showing how you could tell if a box has been tampered with. So
Understood.
So kind of just like clearing the air right from the get-go.
Understood. But it basically no thanks, depending upon your viewpoint here.
Yeah.
It's because of Logan Paul that there was a pretty big surge in the popularity of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Not just the IP, but the trading card game.
Yeah.
In particular. So yeah, like that was a big boost for the game. Again, depending upon your frame of reference, could shade how you think of it. But regardless of what your opinion is, there were shortages, and it was difficult to pick up product because of Logan Paul.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened.
I mean, nearly all the stores, Walmart, Target, whatever else, it was just like max of 2 per person. Yeah. There were videos of people like getting trampled. Yep. Right? There were people fighting for Pokemon cards at Target. It was absurd.
And I think our local Target still has that sign up.
Yeah, it does.
I think they still say you can only get, 2 boxes or whatever, 2 things of product. So, those effects are still being felt today.
Yeah.
So, that is our third card of the week, Charizard. What'd you think? Any Pokemon players in the house? Right here. Right here. And we're going to be playing that on the channel some point for sure. But yeah, Pokemon is fantastic. Charizard, probably the best Pokemon. One of the best Pokemon.
Like how?
Most popular. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he probably is. Right. So, all right. That was a fantastic show. Great episode today. Jim, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram at Jim Morgan HNH.
You can find me on Twitter at _DJ Campbell and on Instagram at Daniel.G.Campbell. And then you can head over to our website, www.hobbiesandhappiness.com. And then you can find links to all of our socials there. So, with that, thanks everybody for being here. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And with that, we will catch you in the next episode. See you, everybody.
Take care.